Magic the Gathering has a Vivi problem, and Path of Exile 2 patches 0.3 is amazing, but the intro. My name is Dom Douglas, and I've been playing Magic the Gathering for what seems like forever, but in fact it's only been on and off for about 30 years. With that comes an expectation that I'm the best player ever. You couldn't be any more wrong in that statement. What I do like, however, is having a lot of fun. Whether it be playing Limited, Draft, Commander, Standard when I get the chance, Arena, Magic the Gathering Online, it doesn't matter as long as a good time is had. And with that, I have some opinions, not just of Magic the Gathering, but also video games, comics, maybe even a TV show or two. This is the Goblin Grenade Podcast. That is right, everybody. Welcome to the Goblin Grenade Podcast. My name is Dom Douglas here for Max Heroes and Villains YouTube channel. And once again, Vivi is a problem with Agatha's Cauldron. And the last Spotlight, this past weekend Spotlight, showed just how much of a problem it is. On day one, it was about 30% of the field out of 800 players. Not great, but not totally bad either. Day two, where the field is pared down for competing in top 8, however, Agatha Vivi was 55% of the field. 6 of the top 8, apparently, was Vivi Agatha Soul Cauldron. Now, the only plus to this was it was taken down by Mono Red, which is still a problem in Standard, but I am here for that problem because Mono Red, even after the nerfs and bans, is still kicking and strong, and I am a very aggressive player, hence why this podcast name is Goblin Grenade. That being said, what is Wizards going to do? And what is the problem that Wizards is dealing with this? It's one of two things. They are trying to make Commander cards in the standard sets and not realizing that is throwing off the power balance occasionally from time to time, or they are producing so many cards that they cannot feasibly playtest or even think that these are bad ideas. Either way, one or both of these cards need to be banned. Now, if I was looking for a card to be banned, it's probably going to be Agatha, because Vivi is still the new hotness, if you will, and it won't be as bad with Agatha. The problem with the Agatha Vivi combo is that it presents a Nadu-like scenario where board states are terrible and you have to manually keep track of which creature you control that has a +1/+1 counter on it because of Agatha Soul Cauldron, has Vivi's abilities, and which ones you've used and haven't used already. You see the problem. On Arena, it takes care of itself. On paper, it is a nightmare. I feel that if you ban Vivi and not Soul Cauldron's going to cause more problems in the future. Vivi will as well, but you can ban Vivi a couple months from now, I feel, and ban Soul Cauldron now, as opposed to waiting all the way till November when the next announced bans are supposed to happen. I think Soul Cauldron's the one that's going to get hit with the ban stick. And I think if they were going to go crazy, both get banned, but I don't think they're going to ban Vivi. They should have banned it when the ban announcement happened originally after Final Fantasy was released, and they realized how big of a problem it was going to be already, and they didn't do that. So I feel Agatha is getting the cut. That being said, they banned a bunch of cards in that ban announcement too, and they completely bricked Mono Red aggro, only for Mono Red aggro to rise from the depths again and steal the Spotlight victory away from the Agatha Soul Cauldrons. Win some, lose some. I'm all for the win. I'm not for how many players have to play Soul Cauldron, because it is the tier 1, tier 0 god meta deck. If you're grinding and if you're have aspirations to be a professional or a top tier Magic player, you have to play the best or play a deck that is close to the best to compete with the best. And right now, there really isn't any way to counteract the Vivi unless you're playing Mono Red and just get a turn 4, turn 5 win before Vivi can pop off. Big problem. The other thing is, this wasn't as attended. Yes, 800 players is good, but the last Spotlight series was 1,500 players big. So half the numbers there, they're going to attribute that because it's Wizards and Hasbro, that it was on Labor Day weekend, and that's why it happened. No, it's Agatha, because stores are reporting and players are reporting that even the in-store championships, some people have said they won by default because they were the only ones who showed up. Now, my local gaming store won't have that problem, but I have a feeling when I relocate to New Jersey in a couple months that I might get a few cheesy victories in the store championships if this continues. Once again, remember, the company is trying to revitalize Standard, and it's not working so far. So there we go. Maybe they finally come to their senses, and it won't happen till next year, some point, but maybe they take the Universes Beyond sets out, or only make one of the Universe Beyond sets standard and the other two not standard, because there's too many cards to test in standard. It's okay to have oopsie whoopsies when it comes to non-rotating formats like Modern and Pioneer and Legacy and Vintage and whatnot, but when standard is getting obliterated by the playfield, and the last set it was Corey Steelcutter and Mono Red and Monstrous Rage and Mice, and now it's Vivi Agatha. So before that was Domain, 5-color Domain. So yes, Standard has a bit of a tuning issue. So that's my news on what happened in Labor Day weekend at the Spotlight series, with Vivi Agatha Soul Cauldron being the problem. Going to adjust the mic a little bit. There we go. So now, what did I do for this Labor Day weekend? Well, Path of Exile 2, as I told you, not only had the free-to-play weekend for people who want to see if they want to play, and I have some advice if you want to continue playing this game. It's not free to get in right now. When it officially releases, Path of Exile 2, just like Path of Exile 1, is a free-to-play. How to get in if you want to play right now is you buy the $30 supporter pack. You'll get a couple cosmetics, you'll get a bunch of in-game currency. That in-game currency is used to buy stash tabs. So immediately you want to buy a merchant tab, a map tab, a currency tab at base. Then you want to buy probably a premium stash tab. And those are your 4 tabs that'll get you through a lot of the game. Essence tab you really won't need right now because not many essences were appearing for me or dropping. But if you get those tabs and you get a 300 in-game currency, which is the equivalent of $30, so you're basically paying $30 in in-game currency to get access to the early access of Path of Exile 2, which apparently might not be officially releasing until sometime next year now. As I said last week, Grinding Gear Games wants to make sure all 6 acts and all character classes that are going to be available will be available. Right now, there's only like 5 or 6 available. I'm probably wrong. I think it's 6. But there's still 2 or 3 more left. The Druid, everybody wanted it this patch. Didn't happen. I'm okay with it. It's still being worked on. Why am I okay with it? Because Act 4... the new act that they dropped on top of the interludes, which, are an amalgamation of what Act 5 and 6 will be. But Act 4 is one amazing act. And I've heard it from a bunch of people, and and it's my opinion too, Act 4 in Path of Exile 2 is quite possibly the best act in both Path of Exile games. Probably the best cool, unique story in any action ARPG, and that's saying a lot, because I think Diablo series is the games that got me into this, and I think it's one of the best stories because of how it was done, and what you're doing, and how you tackle it. Because every other act in Path of Exile, even the interludes, is always a point A to point B to point C to point D. Point D might have point D2 or D.1 to sidetrack to do a side mission, but for the most part, you can get through the story from A, B, C, D, E, F, boss. Act 2, A, B, C, D, E, F, boss. Act 4, you go to King's March, which is the central hub for this act, and then you get to take on all the islands how you see fit. So you're looking for pieces, you're looking for maps, you're looking for things to fight the big bad enemy in the game to counter what it's doing, and also finding treasure maps to find some hidden treasure island, and also working with the people that reside in the island, the Karuri, and it is just, you can take it on however you want. I did most of the weapon pieces, and then I did the map, and then I did all the side stuff. You can do the map first. You can do the side pieces. You can do the map pieces first, then hit that island. Then you can go and do the weapon pieces. And you don't have to do the weapon pieces A, B, C. You can do a weapon piece, then a map piece, and then a weapon piece, and then a map piece. I didn't even go into the Karuri town until almost the very end of the act for the first time. And spoilers, hit that first, because something happens with a merchant there that you won't have access to later on, and they sell some pretty decent gear. Sometimes. Then, after Act 4, you go into the interludes, and as I said, the interludes are the temporary mashup of Acts 5 and 6 whenever they drop. And 2 of the interludes are fun. You go back to a couple areas to rally the forces against the big bad, but the interlude, the Stolen Barrier, the first zone, is probably the biggest zone they've ever done, and it doesn't need to be. It is way too big. It can seriously take you an hour if you're blasting through it. It took me 2 hours to complete the entirety of the map because I wanted to take my time. My first character in every season, I take my time, I get everything done, I enjoy the story, I enjoy the game. I don't want to bum rush with my first character to the endgame map content. Every other character I make, I bum rush through it. I don't do any of the side quests unless it gives me passives, points, or resistance abilities. I won't do it. I won't do every single weird gem quest for characters 2, 3, and 4 if I ever get around to them. First one, I will play a ton. And I got to maps in the weekend. The free-to-play weekend was Friday at 4 p.m. all the way till Monday 4 p.m. I think. Monday the 1st. Yeah. Wait. Yeah, Monday the 1st at 4 p.m. it ended. I got the maps right around 5 o'clock on Monday afternoon, and I had played for 42 hours. My first character played 42 hours to get the maps, and I enjoyed every single bit of it except for the Stolen Barrier, because it's just too long. It took way too long, and I got stuck on the Jamma fight, and I have some... Later on in this podcast, I will tell you my thoughts, my super casual, even though I have hundreds of hours in this game already, thoughts on how certain bosses you should prepare for, especially if you're getting into the game new. But yeah, seriously, it's a blast to play. Even the interludes, they were fun to play as well, except for the Stolen Barrier. That one was... The map is a little too big for my liking. I think if it was even just 10, 15% smaller, it wouldn't be as bad. Then with this patch, because remember, it's a season patch as well, the Abyss League is fun. Abyss League is, you fight enemies underground until treasure troves come up, and then you pick up items that can desecrate an item of whatever it can be, whether it's a weapon. There's certain jawbones that drop, like that can desecrate a weapon or an armor or an amulet or whatever. Then you go into the Well of Souls and use that item that you've desecrated, throw it into the well, and you will get one of 3 random modifiers to that weapon of your choosing. You can choose which one of the 3 drop. It's also got items that can drop that let you either re-roll if you don't like the initial 3, or only roll suffices or affixes, or you can tailor the Well of Souls to a point that you can. I really enjoyed the Abyss League mechanic. I enjoy those fights, but you can also get Abyss maps. Not maps, a zone. Abyss zone that you drop in, and now you're in the Abyss, and then you basically have to fight all the way to a triple rare boss fight, mini boss fight, 3 of them at the same time. I was able to pull 1 each because my build is the Deadeye crossbow grenade build. I'm not doing a lightning Deadeye, I'm just doing a grenade Deadeye, and Deadeye is really OP. It took me forever to realize also that I'm supposed to fire the grenade and then fire my firebolt to explode the grenades. For the first 15 hours of the game that I was playing, I was literally firing the grenades and then rallying the enemies around where the grenades eventually would blow up. And I got pretty far into the game until I realized, oh, I'm supposed to fire the grenade and then fire my firebolt at the grenade to make them blow up immediately. It took me way too long to realize, and I was still blasting through this game. So that's Deadeye being a little bit OP, especially that it's also Localhaul's build, and they updated it the day after, because what happened was a lot of gems got renamed and there was a lot of new gems introduced and some taken out. So I was using his old build, which was viable up until the day of patch 0.3 came out, because a lot of new stuff was introduced and a couple of things were changed. But I could see, okay, instead of it being named triple arrow, it's now multi-attack. You know, so I was able to like piece together those things on the first day, but Localhaul, to their credit, they changed it up and updated the build guide on Moblytics. So it had the accurate names of the gems and everything else. It's still a great build. It's super fun to play. And yes, I'm playing a Deadeye. I know everybody's complaining about Deadeye, but I've been melee. I haven't played Deadeye since the first in January, when it was still the original 0.1 patch. And I played it because I like playing Archer in Path of Exile. I like playing Deadeyes in Path of Exile 1. Figured it'd be easy to transfer over to 2. And then I've been a Sorceress. I've been a melee build. I've been multiple melee builds. So yeah, I've played everything, and I haven't played Deadeye since the first character tune that I rolled up in Path of Exile 2. Then the new trading system also came with this, and it is godlike. This changed, for me, how this game is played. It is so good. Trading isn't a hassle anymore. You used to have to open up an extra browser, scrolling through until what I found, and I would use the item filter, like I need more resistance, and I need this much damage, and I need it to be this level with this quality. Then you scroll through the list until you find viable ones, because people still list stuff underpriced, especially in that in 0.1, 0.2, to try to fool people into listing really good items for way less than they were supposed to. Then I find the item accurately priced, then I send in a request to trade, and then it gets ignored. I would successfully get a trade done 1 in every 10 times. That is no longer the case. Between the merchant tabs that are great, you open up an in-game menu now. You don't have to open up an extra browser unless you want to like find a randomly specific item. And mind you, and if they have it listed in a merchant tab, which you get access to in Act 4, you can't access it earlier on your first character, you have to get the 4, you simply buy the item outright. They don't even need to be online anymore. And it is such less of a hassle. I was able to gear up way easier because of being able to find easy trades. And the items I was looking for, I'm looking for budget items, especially on my first build. I think I spent maybe 4 or 5 Exalted Orbs in total, which is one of the more used pieces of currency in the game. And like materials, you use crafting materials to buy items on these merchant houses as well. So it's like Divine Orbs, Exalted Orbs, these all do things like Exalted Orbs add another modifier to a rare item. You have Orbs of Transmutation and Transgression or whatever. They upgrade a normal item to a magic item, and then you can add more implicits to it, and then you can make that magic item with a regal orb, a rare item, and then you can use the Exalted to make it, more affixes and suffixes on it. That's usually the main currency used in-game for these trades. But it made it so much easier, and I was able to get what I wanted much quicker and just go into their hideout, go into their merchant, buy the item, bingo, bango, I'm out. Now, I had some issues, very few issues, when it came to crashes, when it came to system glitches and whatnot. PC players, on the other hand, had a fair amount, but I think this is due to how PCs can have numerous graphics cards, numerous configurations, and honestly, I think the code for this game, was suboptimal at best for all these different graphics cards and drivers and all this other things. PC players had I have it listed here, a collision of nightmare scenarios coagulating together to becoming a massive issue on PC, to the point that there was an item that people were using with their friends that would brick that character. You couldn't access that character until they fixed it. And to GGG's credit, I think they fixed it, but there was a lot of issues between that, flickering, strobing effects on just general maps. It still happens to me because I'm playing an explosive grenade build. Sometimes the grenades would explode in a red box and not the fire. Or sometimes I get the combination of the fire effect and the red box. It's day one. This, I will say, is a much smoother experience in the beginning than patch 0.2 was. 0.2 almost killed the game, folks. A lot of people were upset, and it took, to GGG's credit, the remainder of that season to fix everything, and they did, and they made it a great experience, and they fixed a lot of issues that were had. But this launch, even the server wait, I was 17,000th in line by the time I got on, because I was playing Gears of War 5, because I was just I need something to do until Path of Exile 2 launches. And I got in a half hour, and I never once got logged out until day 2. But yeah, much smoother experience overall. But King's March the town that you get in Act 4 every time you go into it. And it was even happening in the town hub of Act 3. It is laggy, and it is stuttering, and it is doing something in the background operations of the game to cause these stutters and lag to happen. I don't know what is going on. It's really not good. And then once it loads, you're fine, but God forbid you go into a merchant where you go into your stash tab and you have to back out and go back into King's March, you will experience the same loading problem again. So, King's March needs some optimization, and maybe the Act 3 hub needs a little bit of optimization as well. But once again, much smoother than 0.2. GGG is learning. This is why this game is in early access, and they do listen to what we're saying. And then today, I was getting in a couple of things before the podcast, and this happened to me. I was in a map in Endgame, and the arena for Crowbell appeared. So Crowbell is a fight that has 2 phases. The first phase, after 25% of his hit points are depleted, he runs away, grabs a bell, starts smashing through things, and then you go into the second part of the fight. He uses the bell, He gets bigger, he does more damage, he shrinks, and then runs away, and then you go into the third fight and win. Well, Crowbell decided not to show up in the arena, and I was locked out of the rest of the map. I could not leave the arena because Crowbell did not show up. It sucked because my map was bricked, and it was actually a halfway decent tier 1 map. I know, it's a map tier 1, but I got a gold, rare map with tons of great benefits to me. I already had like 4 maps drop on me. Gear was getting pretty good, and I was only like a third of the way done the map, and now I couldn't do anything else with the map because I was locked in the arena because Crowbell, I guess, just decided to take a day off. That was the only big experience I had. I had some disconnect issues, but that's obviously going to happen, especially with Replay Weekend, because as I knew, this was also a server stress test as well. I'm dreading when the game goes free to play because over half of the chat was bots that you can buy currency for, and honestly, you don't need to buy currency. You don't need to buy like materials in the game, like your Chaos Orbs, your Divine Orbs, your Exalt Orbs. You don't need to buy these things off of a outside website that's not GGG. GGG, Grinding Gear Games, the people who make Path of Exile 1 and 2, won't sell those to you directly. But honestly, if you're going to spend money on this game, don't do that. Spend it on GGG. Spend it on a currency tab, spend it on a stash tab, spend it on any tab, spend it on cosmetics. Because this stuff will drop. Now, I get some people don't have enough time to play and whatnot, and to get all the... You don't need the top tier things. My build doesn't have any top tier things. The only thing on my build, and I'm level 70 right now, that is even appropriate to my level is my weapon. And I spent an Exalt Orb getting that weapon. And then I used the Abyss to roll more damage on it, which I was lucky on, and then put 2 rune sockets in there and basically upped my physical damage to now, I think, extra 30%, 40-something% extra damage on top of everything else. That's the only piece of gear that is level appropriate for me. Every other piece of gear I own is 30 levels below, and I'm already in the early stage of maps. So I'm wearing level 30 to 35 gear. And I'm still blasting through these maps. Now you can say I should up my gear up. Well, Magic Find is a thing in this game. And the fact that I have like 4 pieces of gear that have at least 12% increased Magic Find for me, I'm having a hard time letting those go. I'm fairly reasonable on my resistances. I mean, you should be maxed out of your resistances where I'm at to at least 75% on each of the 3 at least. Chaos is harder to do, but you can get through that in very end game maps. But, fire, cold, and lightning, your resistances should at least be 75 when you start going into maps. Well, I'm at like 60% fire, 50% lightning, and then like 30% cold. Because the gear that would do that for me, I have percentage to Magic Find. So increased Magic Find. So that's why I'm having a hard time letting go, because once I started getting Magic Find, and key to early game, Magic Find, a lot better stuff dropped as well. Some of the other errors that I've heard of is immortal enemies. Sometimes just enemies are just immortal and they can't die. They won't be able to die no matter what you do. You won't be able to do damage to them. It is a glitch. For half of it. I'll get to the other half in a bit. Example of this, and it happens a couple times, there's this ritual mechanic where you start the encounter, it makes a closed-in arena, and it's just a swarm of enemies that you have to beat. Well, if a goblin that's not part of that ritual meanders in to the ritual, that goblin becomes immortal. And because it's now in the ritual, it's considered part of the ritual map, the enclosed area. And to complete the ritual, you have to beat all the enemies. It's counting this goblin as an enemy. You can't kill the goblin. Your map is bricked. So they have to kind of fix that a little bit. Now, the thing that I think half of the immortality enemies aren't is because of this explicit that rolled on an enemy. Dire proximity tangibility means you need to be up close and personal with this enemy to beat it. There was many times where I felt I had a immortal enemy. I wasn't doing any damage. I was too far away, apparently. And dire proximity tangibility doesn't sound like a combination of words that say up close damage only. I realized this today, I might add, that dire proximity tangibility on a enemy means you have to be up close to the enemy to do any sort of damage to them. Shroud Walker Implicit needs some work. A little bit, I feel. It disappears and then the enemy disappears and teleports to your location, but they do it in weird, random times. The enemy will be behind me, having a back attack, technically, like the option to do that, and then they will just teleport away. It makes no rhyme or reason. It makes for fun gameplay, but I think it just needs to be tuned a little bit. Shroud Walker Implicit, I already just said that. Now, one of the new bosses, Yama the White, probably one of the coolest boss fights in the game. Yama the White is awesome. But it needs a smoother transition from Phase 1 to Phase 2. And this is what I mean. Most of your big boss fights will have multiple phases if you don't one-shot them immediately. And you can do that. There are some builds that can. But Yama the White, when they go from Phase 1 to 2, pauses the fight, has his line, and then gets his stuff in. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no warning of the pause happening. There's no warning of the unpause happening. I even try to listen to lines of dialogue. And when he stops, I'll just immediately start dodge rolling to make sure. No, it's just a random occurrence. It's not that the fight needs to be paused is the problem. I think it just needs a little bit of a smoother transition and a little bit more of a tell that this is about to happen. You get to that threshold, and then he'll say a line, and then it pauses. Whereas once you get to that threshold, even if, what I would do on boss fights is cluster a bunch of grenades together and then fire my firebolt, causing this huge explosion and mass amounts of damage. What happened with Yama, that happened. The damage hit the threshold for the pause, and then the fight paused, middle of explosions and all. He teleports away somewhere, says his line, and then does this mechanic where either he's throwing basically spirit bombs at you, or you split off into 4 different spirit things, and you have to find the right one to stand in the circle of before you die. Either one of these two will happen. Sometimes you get unlucky and he combos on both. But I think it just needs a smoother transition between that pause, and I think the fight will be easier. It took me 3 tries. Not as much as Jamara. I was stuck on Jamara for 2.5 hours. And I think I kind of know what I'm doing, even though I'm a filthy casual when it comes to this game. And yes, I have hundreds of hours in Path of Exile 2. I'm still considered a casual because this game is that in-depth. That's why I love it. Diablo 4, I love. Path of Exile 2, I love. Diablo 4 and Diablo 3 to an extent are mindless for me. I don't have to think a lot. I don't have to think at all. I just hold right trigger because I play Barbarian in Diablo 3 and 4, and I just spin to win. Barely any thought goes into it. Path of Exile 2 and 1 are like master's degrees in video games. I have 4 or 5 tabs opened up on my computer. I'm playing on my Xbox X. I'm looking at the tabs on my computer to see what I should be doing. Yes, follow a build guide. Please, if you're getting into this game, I should have said it earlier. Follow a build guide. There is nothing wrong with doing that. Do not think you're taking away from the game for discovering it on your own. Path of Exile 1, when I finally got it on Xbox One, not the X, One, I've played on PC when it first came out and enjoyed it and then forgot about it, and then it came on Xbox One and I was like, I'm now playing it. I tried to raw dog it. It was not a fun experience. It was not at all. And the second character I played after beating the campaign and getting into maps in the first game, I was like, let me look up a build guide. Oh my god, I should have done that earlier. Don't be afraid to look up a build guide. And if you see streamers and whatnot and people on YouTube playing this game and they're doing crazy elite things, those are the top 5% of the players in the game. This is their job. Remember that. Their 9 to 5 is playing Path of Exile 2 to stream for entertainment, which is phenomenal. All the credit to them. But remember, this is their job. If this is just a hobby for you, if this is just some downtime, look up a guide, do yourself a favor. You'll have so much more fun with these two games if you look up a build guide. So now, there's a few bosses in this game, especially on the free-to-play weekend with the new players, the free-to-players that were there for the weekend, that needed some help. Chat was more than willing to help. Of course, you'll get some that say, sounds like a skill issue to me, or get good. But you would get some true heroes that would help. So here's my filthy casual guide. No master, never completed a pinnacle boss in Path of Exile 2, has gotten into deep mid endgame numerous times. My tips and tricks for certain boss fights. The end of Act 1 boss, Geonor. Have as much cold resistance on your gear, jewelry, as possible. And learn to dodge roll as best as you can. Geonor is like, you basically have you mastered dodge roll mechanic in the game. On top of teaching you what resistances truly mean. Geonor does a lot of cold damage, so if you can get as much cold resistance as possible, you will do yourself a tremendous favor in this fight. When he turns into a wolf in his second phase, and mist surrounds you, and smaller wolves charge at you and surround you, Geonor randomly runs through you. He doesn't randomly do this. This is actually a sound cue and is one of my favorite parts of this game that not too many people comment on. Geonor will say phrases or lines. He'll be like, the dawn of the new day breaks with this. When he's done speaking the line, take a pause and then dodge roll. Because by the time you've taken a beat, dodge roll, you will dodge his attack because when he's done saying the line, he is already running towards you. So when he says his line and the sentence is complete, hit dodge roll, wait a beat, hit dodge roll, you'll be successful. It's actually a cool sound cue that you have to hit. And it's one of the more amazing things about this game. Some of the design is just out there, and not many people comment on the Geonor fight on the sound cue, on the dodge roll in the second phase. But the more important part is cold resistance is your friend on this one. And don't stand in the red or white circles in the second phase either, because that means your stuff is about to get hurt bad. The fight that I was stuck on for 3 hours almost in Act 2, the Act 2 final boss, Jamara. Jamara's fight is a DPS gear and build check. If you're not familiar with certain MMOs, there's something called a DPS check in a boss fight. Destiny 1 has these, where if you don't do enough damage, Final Fantasy 14, MMOs do this. If you're in a boss fight, with a group of friends and you don't have enough damage, the boss will one-shot you and kill you and basically says, you failed your DPS check, there was no way you're getting through this fight. Jamara is kind of the same, but it's making sure that it's a damage per second check, a gear check, and is your build viable? Have you screwed your build up? Did you do a wrong build? Did you not look up a build guide? Jamara will tell you if you did. Now, that being said, keys to help you in this fight: have as much lightning and fire resist as possible, and even using charms that help with lightning and fire resist in this fight. Dodge rolling, once again, is your friend here. You need to start learning how to dodge roll adequately. If you're unsure, head back into town and see if there's gear with those resistances, and make sure you're up to date on your gear, leveled wise, especially your weapon. That's the thing, a DPS check. If you've been using the same weapon for 20 levels and you're at the Jamra fight and you're not doing any damage to Jamra, you need to upgrade your weapon at least. You need to start looking at merchants. You need to start looking at other players for merchant tabs to see if they're selling something even a few levels higher that's doing more damage. Trust me, the fight will be easier. Now, the second phase, it gets chaotic. That's why dodge roll is going to be your friend. Make sure that your health potion has enough charges on it. And that, I mean, your health potion should, at least for me, have 8 to 10 charges. So you can use it 8 to 10 times. Because this Jamra fight is long. And you have to... You can get through it without using health potions if you play perfect for like 5 minutes. Or you just have a build that one-shots both phases completely. That is also possible. I probably should have been able to do that, but remember, when I was doing the Jamra fight, I hadn't noticed that you fire the grenade and then shoot the arrow yet. So yeah, Jamra, those are my keys to the Jamra fight. And the hardest boss fight in the game, I'm not even joking. This is another boss fight I was stuck on for 2 hours, and I just needed to upgrade my weapon. Act 3, Viper Natuzi, or however you say it. The Viper fight is hard. It had the most requests for help. This is a DPS hardcore fight. You need to have as much damage per second as possible before the spears get thrown at you. What happens is it's a very small, isolated fight in a box, and you're surrounded by troops, and Viper's calling you out, and it's a 1v1 for the most part. After phase 1, which can happen at random, the soldiers surrounding you on the sides will throw spears at you. You have to dodge roll these all perfectly, because if you get hit with one spear, you get stunned, and then by the time you can recover, the second set of spears have already killed you. You need to master the dodge roll for this fight, and you also need to master the timing. It took me 2 hours to get the timing right, even with a better weapon doing tons more damage to Viper. I was still getting pwned by the soldiers throwing the spears at me, because once again, if you get hit one time, you get stunned. Now, some of your gear can have stun block chance, or, resistance to stun. That'll help. But lightning and chaos resistances. As you're in Act 3, you should have at least some chaos resistance, even using the chaos charm and the lightning charm. However, do not use the poison charm in this fight, because Viper uses poison a lot. And if you get poisoned, use the charm. You'll just get hit poison again when the charm effect is over, and it won't be recovered in time because it's a 1v1 fight. So don't use the poison charm. Use instead lightning or chaos resistance charms for that, because her AoE poison effect is long. Sadly though, Viper, that's really just a making sure now at this point, have you mastered dodge roll, because Viper will make sure you have. And then the final boss in Act 3, Doriani. Try your best to max out resistances, but if you can't, focus on lightning and fire resistance, because that's the two attacks that Doriani's both forms use the most. Once he gets in his mech, however, avoid going behind the mech where the ball of lasers come out, because it has a lightning burst effect that will kill you in less than a second. 2 or 3 seconds if you've maxed out lightning resistances. But other than that, Doriani, just make sure when he's in his mech, make sure you are facing head on with the mech. You're not dodge rolling behind unless you like playing fast and loose with this boss fight, because the butt lasers, as we call it, can decimate you very fast. And before you know it, you're repeating the boss fight, and you were one shot away from beating Doriani, and then you got behind him, and no, I don't talk from experience at all. Although the Doriani fight I only had to do twice, because, as I just said, I accidentally forgot my own device and went behind where the butt lasers were, and he farted lightning at me until I was dead. and it happens really fast. So that's my like casual amateur tips for some of the harder boss fights that I was encountering in chat on the free-to-play weekend. And this is for people who are brand new playing the game. Look up a build guide. Don't be ashamed. Take some of my advice. And hopefully you'll have a fun time. If you follow a build guide, you will have a fun time. If you don't follow a build guide, unless you are like a god-tier gamer savant, you're not going to have fun. That being said, I had a blast with Path of Exile free-to-play weekend. I'm still playing it because I spent the $30 to get early this year to get access to the game. Used it to buy more tabs for, the essence tabs and all that. I just rounded out the tabs. I already have enough. And then I bought 2 merchant tabs because why not? 10 days away from Borderlands 4, and when that happens, oh boy, and that podcast that week is, the week after that comes out, is going to be like the quickest podcast ever, because I'm going to be like, Borderlands 4 is great, back to playing it, bye! My name's been Dom Douglas from Max Heroes and Villains YouTube channel. I want to thank you for listening. Leave a comment, leave a like, leave all that other stuff, the call to arms action that I always wait till the end of the podcast to do because I don't believe in conventionalism. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to continue playing Path of Exile 2 right now. And may your top deck always be mythic. 2.5 hours stuck on the Jamma fight.